But the volunteers working to save this ruined church have invented a more radical solution to save their cherished landmark. There's something melancholic about seeing gravestones like this pushed to one side, no longer linked to graves. There's not been a proper church on this site for 150 years, but all is certainly not lost. The old church of St Mary's in Clophill, Bedfordshire, is being given a new lease of life. Old St Mary's hasn't been a church since the 1850s. It became a ruin and a target for vandals. It was the first in the country to be included on the English Heritage at Risk list, and the villagers were determined to bring it back to life. It's a long way from the village, isn't it? It is. It's about half a mile up the hill from the village, and that's part of the problem, or a considerable part of the problem that we've had with the project, really, because over the last 60 years we've had an awful lot of antisocial and criminal activity because of the site's remoteness, from fly tipping to vandalism, desecration of the church. For the people in the village and the wider community who have got relatives buried here, it's very upsetting, and fewer people feel comfortable coming to the site. We're hoping that we'll be finished sort of spring 2014, but it's quite a big project. You do seem to have a lot of work to do. There's no roof there. We're not actually going to put the roof back on again. We did look originally at completely restoring the monument, but looking at it over the last 2 or 3 years, we've come to the conclusion that was the wrong thing to do. So it's going to be, when it's finished, it's still going to be a ruin, but a picturesque ruin. Although there are no plans to turn the clock back for the whole building, the tower will be restored to make a viewing platform. But the main body of the church will remain open to the skies. Right, well, we're now inside the nave, but a bit of a mess, isn't it?
Well, it is a mess, but it's so interesting. There have been so many changes to this church. Just come and have a look over here.
How old is the church, do you think?
Well, we've been told that it probably dates from pre-conquest times.
Right, so that's before 1066?
Before 1066. It's the thickness of the walls that indicate that.
So these great big walls, they were here before the Normans invaded?
Probably.
All right, now tell me other things.
Well, this is one of probably 12 consecration marks.
This is the mark here?
Yes. When the church was consecrated, the bishop would have anointed the church in 12 places, but if you notice, the top of the mark is missing. We could see it could go around there, couldn't it? Well, it would have been a perfect circle, which to me would suggest that it was there before these windows were put in.
So the windows, the great big windows, they wouldn't have been original, would they?
Oh, no, the walls wouldn't have withstood that.
No.
These were put in probably in the middle of the 15th century.
Right.
They were perpendicular windows.
So what we're seeing is a thriving community over the centuries, aren't we? Constantly changing the church.
Absolutely, yes.
Making it better.
Yes.
Because they wanted to show off. They wanted to make sure that they had a fancy church.
Absolutely.
So you're seeing the whole of British history is here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, what if someone had suggested that it should just knock down? You know, why bother?
Well, I'm afraid one of our previous rectors did want to knock it down.
Really?
He thought that it was a magnet for antisocial behaviour, and that if it wasn't here, the antisocial behaviour would have stopped. But several of us didn't think that that would actually happen.
No, and also it's sort of shocking, isn't it?
Well, we were shocked. We actually said, no, definitely not.
Yeah, no, you have to keep on. And this, you feel, it's your church, isn't it?
Yes. We've got 1,000 years of people walking up this hill to worship up here.
Adrian's enthusiasm is wonderful, but volunteers alone can't defend the site from the vandals who've spoiled it in the past, which is where these buildings come in. They're purpose-built lodges for visitors. They're part of the church restoration, but it's also hoped they will attract people walking the nearby Greensands Ridgeway. And having visitors here should help deter troublemakers.
We've got a full-time warden that lives in the central accommodation.
That's here,
Yeah, we have a reception area above it, an interpretation area, and then the 2 buildings on each side will be the accommodation lodges that people can rent.
And these are sort of environmentally friendly, aren't they?
Yes, they're eco-lodges, yes.
Yeah.
The cedar will dull down over the years, become silvered to match the trees.
Right. And it makes a bit of money?
Yes, well, I don't think we're going to be millionaires out of it, but we'll be able to afford to keep the warden here on a long-term basis.
So once you've got people always on the site, you can make sure that people don't mess around with the church, the vandals don't go back.
It's a solution to maintaining the progress you make with stabilising the ruin.
That's a great solution, isn't it?
Yes, unique, yes.
Yeah. English Heritage are delighted with the Clophill project and the way it solves one of their most difficult problems. Tell me what you thought of this when you first saw it.
I thought a wonderful site, but what a set of problems here. Serious heritage crime, graffiti, vandalism, and for me, should have been a straightforward conservation project, has taken years to get to this point.
But it was the first building to go onto the at-risk register.
Absolutely. #1 in England. So really what we were looking for were some constructive and creative solutions here.
And that's why it took so long.
That's right. It really took the community to come together and actually come up with those solutions, and for us at English Heritage to really work with them to actually arrive at what we're getting to today.
So this can be a sort of role model, can it?
Well, it could, absolutely, because really, sometimes for the most problem buildings, the ones that have been on the register for years, which have defied easy conservation solutions, sometimes something really innovative and exciting needs to happen to make it a sustainable project.
Looking at all these different sorts of buildings, I've been able to see how restoration involves much more than simply rebuilding. Money, and lots of it, is often, of course, vital. But you also need skill, enthusiasm, and passion. Yes, a love for old buildings.
I've always loved it. It's such a beautiful place.
What's particularly interested me in making these programs is the way that restoration projects have changed in recent years. They've become more sophisticated. It's not just a matter of save this church. Now they look at the whole site. In the restoration business, history doesn't just stand still, it's brought right up to date.